Hello, I'm Renata with Renata's Garden, and welcome to another episode of Unearth Horticulture. I'm doing a special episode on the bus today, and we are going to discuss a very common houseplant care topic, which is misting your plants. And many of you have heard that misting is a great idea to encourage humidity levels to raise around your plants. And while this is true to an extent, it's not exactly what you may think. Misting only temporarily raises the humidity around your plants for about 30 minutes or less. If you're really concerned about the humidity levels long term around your plant, if you have a really dry climate in your house, I would consider adding a humidifier or a humidity tray underneath your plant for a better long-term solution. But if you're interested in just misting to give your plants a little boost in the morning, then definitely there are plants that you should and should not mist the leaves, and that's what we're going to go over today. I have a handy dandy little low volume misting bottle that I've been selling on the bus, and they're great because they fog rather than produce droplets that are going to bead up and remain on your leaves and cause those leaves to really stay wet, which can lead to disease issues. So I'm going to use this handy dandy little fogging bottle to demonstrate which plants you should and should not mist that I have on the bus today. So I have my plants laid out here, and we're just going to go through and talk what plants are okay to mist and what plants maybe you want to avoid, or maybe which plants are unnecessary to mist. Plants like Sansevieria have really thick waxy leaves, and they don't really need misting because their leaves are built to retain moisture in them, so they don't really need misting. They're going to be fine with low humidity environments. Plants like bromeliads, on the other hand, they're tropical plants and they're really used to high humidity, so they might like a misting each morning. Prayer plant is a common plant that really loves humidity. And this is one where misting may help temporarily, but I would highly suggest that you get a humidifier or humidity tray to keep those leaf margins green and keep them from browning. But misting is a good temporary solution. Any plants in the aroid family, like this aglaonema, dragontail plant, Anthurium, pothos, philodendron, they all love a good fogging, but again, not technically necessary, but it can help temporarily give them a little bit of a boost. Let's see what else. Begonia are one kind of plant that I would suggest skipping the misting. While they like some humidity in their environment, they really hate wet leaves, and it can cause them to melt. That's what we call melting in horticulture, where they kind of turn brown, they get necrotic, and the leaves just kind of melt. And they just don't like staying wet. Another plant that I want to make sure and talk about is ferns. And if you're bad at growing ferns, I mean, everyone knows who they are. Ferns are one of those plants that people think, forest, this needs a high humidity environment, so we're going to go ahead and mist the leaves. When in reality, ferns hate wet leaves, having just droplets that remain on the leaf and keep that plant wet. In fact, it's always a good idea to bottom water, to sub-irrigate your ferns if you can, simply because you want to avoid getting the crown of the plant wet. Like begonias, if you get these leaves wet, it tends to cause them to melt and turn brown. So there's a little tidbit and trick. Many of you know the Hoya. Hoya is a really fun plant to have around. Like Sansevieria, mother-in-law's tongue, they have really waxy leaves and they don't need misting. They can do well in a bright environment with low humidity. Elephant's ear, they're also in the plant family with the aroids, so they can do with some misting, but maybe not as necessary for them. Raven, this is a ZZ plant, and this little peperomias, all of these, they don't really require misting either. They have really thick, succulent leaves. that are built to be in low humidity environments. So their waxy leaves protect them. They don't really need misting. All right, so I think I have one more plant that I can talk about, and that is English ivy. English ivy is a plant that can pretty much grow anywhere. It can grow in high light, low light, high humidity, low humidity. They don't need misting either, but you know, it doesn't hurt them either, so do whatever you feel. I mean, it's up to you. All right, so as far as the plants go on the bus, that pretty much covers what you should and should not mist. If you have a plant that I didn't mention in this video that you're curious about, definitely reach out and ask me about it, and I'll be happy to give you an answer on that. You know, horticulture is all about experimentation and learning and asking questions. So, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Until next week, I'm Renata with Renata's Garden, and you've been watching Unearth Horticulture.